I heard about this new series that Tejas Hullur was creating on attractiveness, and I'm like, well, this is something I should probably react to.
Do you think you're an attractive person? Sorry, that question might have been a bit too off-putting, might have been a bit too direct, but hold on, that's not fair. It's already been 10 seconds in this video, and you've already subconsciously made a decision whether you think I'm attractive or not.
I haven't made that decision, but yeah, I mean, I think sometimes, I do all these analyses and people think that anytime I look at them, I'm like analyzing their face and seeing how attractive they are. But in reality, I sort of I flip that switch off and on when I need to. So having it on all the time uses up a lot of brain power. So I usually keep it off unless I need to for my job. But of course, I'm only human, so I might make a quick judgment on how attractive someone is as I pass them on the street or whatnot, or see someone on TV. But in this case, I didn't really think about that when I was watching this video so far.
So actually, I will ask you again. Do you think you're an attractive person? I know, it sounds crazy.
I'm okay. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I'm the world's most attractive person, but I don't think I'm the world's ugliest person either. I don't know. Like, I look at myself, I sometimes will self-analyze and I'll be like, yeah, maybe this could be optimized, that could be optimized. That doesn't mean I'm running to get those procedures done because I'm overall okay in my shoes. And I think that's a good place to be.
But that term attractive is something we all think about constantly, but no one really ever talks about.
Oh, we talk about it on this channel. Come on over, watch our content. We talk about it a lot. But at the end of the day, it's about how you feel inside. It really is. It's sure, the external appearance can change how you feel inside, but ultimately, that's going to be the most important thing. And no matter how someone looks on the outside, it doesn't guarantee that they're going to feel great about themselves internally.
But what's there to talk about anyway? Why does being attractive matter? Is there even a legit way to increase your attractiveness?
We know it matters because there are some research studies looking at, how people feel about someone who maybe has undergone a facelift or a hair transplant, assuming the work was done well. They are viewed differently. They're perceived differently. They're, how likely they are to be hired, how likely someone is to want to date them changes with how attractive they're perceived. So there are surely reasons why someone might want to look more attractive. Oh my God, I think he's actually looking at the study right now. That's crazy.
You've probably grown up hearing that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And for centuries, we've believed this. But today, as more statistical models come out, better quality research is conducted, and cultural standards increasingly overlap, we're learning that statement is wrong. We're learning that attractive individuals receive more positive attention, better job prospects, and actually get off crimes easier.
Has skincare on their Christmas wish list.
Oh gosh, yeah, starting early. I mean, I wouldn't recommend our Feel Confident products to these young girls. I mean, I think you don't need to start so early.
We're learning that more people today than ever are willing to spend money on becoming more attractive. And we're even learning that infants prefer attractive faces, suggesting that beauty is more nature than nurture. Today, we're finding that there is an element of objectivity in attractiveness. So, what are these truths behind what makes someone beautiful?
Take this off.
In this 4-part docuseries, I undergo a series of tests and transformations to figure out how to become more attractive, according to science.
So everybody has a little drop of fat here, and about here is about as big as an egg yolk.
Uh-oh, I think he was trying to talk him into buccal fat removal, and we have a video about that, and I've got some strong views on that procedure.
Without further ado, welcome to How to Become More Attractive Scientifically.
Okay, I have another question. If you had to rank yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 and how attractive you think you are, what would you say? Matt, you go first.
I think people usually give themselves a higher score than how others perceive them. And that's something that I think has been borne out in other different experiments. But we'll see if that happens here.
How the hell do you even answer something like that? You answer too high, you sound cocky. But if you answer too low, you sound not confident.
I'm an 8. 8.4.
But worst of all, let's say you are attractive and answer too low. man, do you seem like an asshole.
Okay, Tejas, your turn.
Short answer, a 6, but I guess it depends sometimes.
Growing up, I was always the tiny, nerdy kid. I was a 5'6" and 115-pound ball of joy for sure. But I remember always being labeled as cute, unlike my little brother.
So we are here from our official sponsors.
And although I embraced this by putting on a show of being a confident guy, looking back, I definitely had my insecurities. Hello.
We all do, that's for sure.
What up, guys? You know, we're just doing our thing. Just
don't lie.
You'd see people like my friend Daniel, who was a varsity basketball player, have girlfriends since the 6th grade. And in the back of your head, you question,
We're here.
How the heck is he doing that?
It's always going to appear like there's others who have, you know, more attractive looks, who have more money, who have more fame and power, and that's going to go on endlessly. I mean, there's never going to be a situation where, you know, you really feel like you're a number one and everyone else, you know, is sort of beneath you for all the metrics, right? You might be number one in something, but surely you're not number one in everything. So it's always going to be that way. So I think it's important to just think positively about your situation, about who you are, how you look, and if there's room for improvement, whether it's how much money you make, whether it's how you look, whether it's the types of friends that you have, then I think it's fair to seek out some ways of improving that. But always know there's always someone else out there who has more, but also someone else out there who has less, right? So it's trying to balance what it is that you want with what you already have. And also, I think just being grateful for the things that you do have is also, I think, really important.
So, when I say it depends, what I meant was...
Sometimes I feel good about myself, but most times I feel like I dock myself because of my physical looks. Sometimes I can feel like a 7 or even an 8. But most times I feel like I see the look in someone's eye and feel like a 3. But what are we talking about?
Attractiveness. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it stems from like an inner feeling, and I think like it also then transcribes into how you portray yourself and the energy that you come with, the positivity that you bring, and all of that will change, I think, also how someone is perceived, and that's maybe harder to study. And in the literature that he was looking through, what looked like some of the data out of Hopkins, they don't really look at that. They don't really assess that, right? They show you these still images, but there's so much more to human beings than still images. And I think I know that, you know, I feel better about myself when I have better sleep on board, when I have exercise, when I'm not completely run down with work and with surgery and, you know, with all the other things that I have going on. Then if I present myself to you guys at home through this video, or if I'm going to an actual event like a birthday party, you know, some sort of gathering, I'm going to feel different about myself, and I would imagine that then changes how others will perceive me from an attractiveness perspective.
There's evidence from 100,000 years ago that early humans used clay pigments as cosmetic paint. And some prehistoric sites even show skeletons next to ivory beads, suggesting that even the earliest humans focused on looking beautiful.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like sometimes I'll see someone who's, you know, very old, like let's say like a woman in her 90s, right? And she'll have makeup on, and she'll be, say, well dressed. And I wonder, like, clearly most people looking at her will say, okay, yeah, that's an old lady, but she still wants to look and feel as beautiful as she can. And she's clearly not looking to procreate at that age, and yet there's still this desire to be perceived in the best possible way. So I always found that very intriguing, you know, from like a psychological perspective. So there's for sure like deeper psychological reasons as to why someone might want to look more attractive.
So back in February, when we first decided to research this, we came across this organization called Coves. They have this incredible YouTube channel and a bunch of articles that list rules on what makes someone more attractive.
I've collaborated with Coves in the past, so make sure to check out that video if you're interested.
And before all this, I never saw beauty in that way, that there's actual actions we can take to make us objectively more attractive.
It's called plastic surgery. I mean, you know, that's one reason for it. Cosmetic plastic surgery, which is what we talk a lot about on this channel, aims to do just that for people who are interested. And sometimes it's because they've had prior traumas, or they were born with some congenital anomaly and they're looking to, look more normal. But sometimes it's people who have really, good starting traits and they're looking to enhance them potentially, or they've just seen the effects of the aging process, whether it's on their hair or whether it's like some sagging skin, and they're trying to reverse those effects. But I think Tejas should visit me here in the clinic to just chat about this stuff as he builds his story and tries to talk to people about attractiveness, and I'm sure we could shed some additional light on his work.
And the more I looked into this, the more I realized that this isn't a new phenomenon. In fact, the conversation today around attractiveness is roaring. If you've been on TikTok, then you've heard of this term Looksmaxing, which is the maximization of your physical appearance for beauty standards. This trend emphasizes many things like moisturizing and hunter eyes and something called mewing.
We have a video dedicated to mewing, so check that one out if you're interested.
Have you ever wanted a better jawline?
Sure. Like you see those like chiseled guys?
Have you ever heard of mewing?
Yeah, like.
Not quite that.
Oh, we're about to watch a tutorial.
Oh.
So, what exactly is mewing? Mewing is a tongue posture technique where you position your tongue against the roof of your mouth to improve facial aesthetics and jawline development.
Yeah, just look that way. Keep it going.
Already before?
Before, yep.
And after.
There's a question as to how permanent these effects are if you're just doing these various posturings, especially later on in your life when you're already pretty much fully formed. So there's a lot of controversy on that front.
Oh my god! You look good right now. You got dimples. Thanks, wow, look at that. Look at that.
I've known you for 2 years.
I never knew that.
There's actually a surgery called dimpleplasty where people try to recreate the appearance of dimples, and I don't think it's a great surgery that's reproducible, but there are some folks out there who offer it.
So the question naturally arises, outside of just jabbing my tongue in different places of my mouth, what is an easy step that I can do to look better? And that's when I thought about hair and your hairstyle. I'm sure we can all agree that a drastic change to your hair can change your impression.
I know a thing or two about hair, but hairstyles, that's going to be a little bit outside of my realm, but let's see what he has to say about that.
So when I first met you, this is how you looked.
Yep.
There's a major difference between the Colt today and the Colt over here. What is that difference?
Yeah, look at this. I got long hair now.
Man, that room is fire. Look at the wallpaper and the ceiling paper.
I was hanging out with Mr. Kelly Ricasa a lot, and he said, bro, you should grow out your hair. And it honestly changed my life. It kind of like grew me up a little bit because I look like a little kid in that photo.
I used to grow out my hair before my autoimmune condition. Meh.
For years, I struggled with figuring out my own hair.
He's got a lot of it. That's a good place to start, and then you can do whatever the hell you want with it.
In high school, I always had this side part. Sometimes it was really messed up, and other times it was fine.
I work with a lot of guys who don't have as much hair as Tejas, and it's more difficult for them to find the hairstyle that suits them best. And after we do something like a hair transplant, they usually have way more in the way of options for styling their hair.
Then I tried some fades. Here's one done by my mom. She's great at many things, but yeah.
Man, look at those anterior temporal peaks. Those look solid, and no signs of recession.
Long story short, I never found a hairstyle that I was confident in. One that fit well on my head, one that gave off the right impression, and one that was sustainable to keep without using an absurd amount of gel every morning.
Man, I remember having some of these dilemmas, but now that I have no hair, I have to say, life is a little bit easier in that I don't have to think about the hairstyle dilemma anymore. But, hair is a nice thing, so, more power to people who want more of it or are looking to prevent the further loss of their hair. That's part of what I do for a living, but I have to say, on the flip side of that, not having hair, you kind of don't have the hairstyle dilemma anymore.
That was until one evening in December of 2022, where I went into a barbershop and had an experience unlike any other. In fact, it's the first stop of this docuseries.
Oh, episode 3 looks like the plastic surgery one. So I might just have to react to every one of these episodes. If you guys enjoy the reaction to this one, let me know in the comments below, and I'll do my best to try to cover each of these subsequent episodes. And maybe I'll actually get a chance to meet Tejas. I believe he's in New York, so maybe we can meet up and do some sort of a combined video on what he's learned throughout all of these various episodes.
Good morning, world. We are headed to a popular place here in New York City called 12 Pal, and it's a place that offers something called a hair consultation. It's a service that's all about educating you on what hairstyle works best through things like your head shape.
We do something similar, but on the surgical transplant side of things.
Hairstyle, density, all these things to give you a more tailored look. As you can tell from my hair, this is the most unraveled, disheveled, chaotic.
Man, now he's just showing off.
My hair has been in a minute. So yeah, hair is something that can really affect your attractiveness. And if the goal is to maximize my attractiveness, what should I do? How would you describe the difference between going to a regular barber and coming to you all?
In the barbering space, communication was definitely not the most prevalent in barbershops, other than maybe talking about the game or like talking about what happened during the weekend. When it came to the hair, you would usually sit down and say, leave it up to you.
Or like I remember they always had those pictures on the walls, right? And it was like, I want that hairstyle. It wasn't necessarily something that like was custom tailored to your appearance, to your goals, to maybe the type of image that you're trying to portray. You know, as we start to build up this Feel Confident brand, we've brought in some experts, some consultants to help us with branding and all of that. And it seems to me like, as I'm learning more about, you know, brand creation, it's all about like the message that you're trying to send and the unique sort of personality of your company. And the same goes for the clothes that we wear, the hairstyle that we go with, right? That has a lot to do with like almost like our personal brand and the image that we're portraying. So I think what Peter seems to do, I think, is super important. And it comes back to the concept of proper strategy, having a strategy going into whatever it is that you're doing. Let's say it's a hair transplant. Let's say it's a lip lift, like surgeries that I still do, or really anything else for that matter. It starts with the proper initial strategy, and then everything else comes together after that. So taking a step back and looking at the overall strategy of like, let's say what you want to do with your hairstyle, I think is like super important before just jumping in and like doing it. Doing it is part of the challenge, but properly strategizing what your plan will be and why it is that you're going with that route, I think is equally as important.
That became such a generational way of getting your hair cut that we realize now people want to look customized. People want to feel like their haircut is theirs.
And that's exactly why people come to me for hair transplants, right? They're looking for artistry, they're looking for a customized approach, and not just some, you know, cookie cutter way of designing a hairline. And the same, I'm sure, goes with how Peter approaches, you know, hairstyling.
I was one of those guys that struggled with figuring out what hairstyle fits my face. So I'm gonna have Pete live roast me. So this is one of the first. What do you think of that?
Bro. You know, whenever I see like these type of hairstyles, it's just like a throwback into what was trending back then. Honestly, it's not bad. I will say it just gives you such a different vibe. Ultimately, not to gas you up or anything, like you have a very symmetrical face and very sharp and masculine already. So most hairstyles work on you. This just is not your vibe anymore.
My hair doesn't naturally like the side part, so it's taking a lot of like goo and just going.
That's what I'm saying,
you know?
yeah.
And in terms of parting your hair, a lot of that stems from the natural directions and angles of how your hair grows out of the actual skin of your scalp. And so sometimes people have a natural part line, men or women, let's say in the center or a little bit off to the side, and it becomes easier to use that part because the direction of the hair is already splitting, versus someone who doesn't have that and is trying to kind of force it with their hairstyle. That's going to be more difficult to essentially train the hairs to go in a certain direction. And when we do hair transplant surgery, we're always careful to follow the natural angles and directions if you want it done properly, so that you have a nice natural appearance to your hair post-operatively. Because if you're just throwing some hairs there and they're, say, in the wrong direction or angulation, you're going to have a mismatch of your pre-existing hairs and now with the transplanted hair. And that's, again, another reason why you want a surgeon who cares about the artistry of everything.
So this is a great example of showing silhouette. So if you compare this photo to your yellow tie photo, the slight difference in just how much bulk right here sharpens up your face a ton. So you see how this already cuts down into your face and your jawline a bit more?
Yeah.
But the other one was curved in. So that just makes you look so young and round as opposed to sharp. Most barbers, I think, should be doing this. They look at the entire silhouette instead of just your features initially, right? Because you're looking at the hair.
Yeah, this is a great message. Hair doesn't exist in isolation. You need to take into consideration the rest of the face. And I mean, again, I'm trying to stay humble here, but one of the reasons why people come to me for hair transplant surgery is that they know my background in facial plastic surgery. So I'm looking at the whole face. I'm trying to balance proportions, especially when we're designing the hairline. And that is so important. And so I'm so happy to hear that Peter takes a similar approach when he's trying to pick out the right hairstyle for his clients.
First time client, I always try to make sure that there's a little bit more of a goal established here, right? It doesn't even just start from the second you sit in a chair, it starts from the second you come in. I look at your outfit, I look at do you have tattoos, what type of accessories do you wear? Because that gives me a good idea on what type of look that you've been exposed to and also what look makes you feel confident. All right, so what this gives me off is this vibe of athleisure, but also a little bit of streetwear when mixed into it. And also just the fact that it's a pretty decent balanced fit. You take care of yourself enough.
Yeah, when I'm doing lip surgery, for example, which is usually for women, though we do get some men who come in for lip surgery, I'm also looking at the overall vibe of the person. And are they a bit more conservative in nature? And do they want maybe more minimalistic change to the lips? Or are they looking for a real oomph? Because of the way that they dress and act and what their goals are. So something similar to what Peter described here.
It goes deeper into now the questions of what does your lifestyle look like?
That's something I see in your videos all the time when you ask people are you working corporate in New York City? Are you trying to are you in a suit and tie or what do you do?
We want to make sure that what you're wearing is good for you in terms of the way it looks, but also there's a lot of social aspects into this, right? Because the way that somebody looks at you determines what they think of you. It shouldn't matter, but it does.
Yeah, people are shocked when they see me without my scrubs or my medical attire. They're like, wait a second, I thought you just always wore scrubs. But I do go places where I don't wear scrubs. Surprise, surprise.
Are there any objective rules to how hair can affect someone's attractiveness?
The number one thing for me is making sure that the haircut is well balanced to their face shape and also working with how their hair type is. Right? Some people have longer faces being oblong. Some people have wider faces being either more square like mine. Because your hair is very voluminous, the nature of your curls, we're gonna shrink this down so the head doesn't become too long. If you have straight hair, if you have low density or high density.
Yeah, and we think about all these very similar things when it comes to hair transplant surgery, the actual hair type. And density, of course, affects how we can harvest the hair from the donor area. How many hairs will there be to harvest over the course of, say, several surgeries potentially, and also the density that we're working into. And how will the scalp look in terms of homogeneity, and will there be an area that's still weaker than the other areas even after a transplant, and how will we balance that potentially with future surgeries? So all of that fits into this category of proper strategy before executing a surgery.
Harmony, silhouette, balance is all kinds of similar things for me, but you want it to be harmonious between your hair type, your face shape, and also your own personal goals. So yeah.
See, there's a lot to it, and this is my argument for hair transplant surgery being done the right way, because a lot of places will just give you a cheap price for per graft fee, and a lot of people will run for that, and same thing with the haircut, right, or hairstyle. I'm sure Peter's not cheap. I'm sure he charges a pretty penny for these types of services, but this is an elevated type of experience compared to just showing up to the barbershop and saying, give me that style that's on the wall there. And what I tell people also is that just like you wouldn't go to your hairdresser and say, or to your barber and say, hey, I want you to use this specific clipper from this specific company. Same goes for hair transplant surgery. Don't come to us and say, hey, I want you to use this specific device. Like, we're using a device that is something that works well in our hands. Just like there's some other surgeon out there who might be using a different device that maybe works best in their hands, and that's okay. And the same goes for, I think, something like being a hairdresser, where you are choosing the equipment that you feel is best for you to do your job. And of course, there's different levels of quality, and I think it's fair for a client or a patient of mine to ask, what do you use? But just realize that we could use a lot of different things and create a very nice result. And you can give the most expensive equipment to someone who doesn't really know what they're doing, and they still won't deliver a great outcome. So it's more important who the actual provider is, in my opinion, rather than the tools that they use. But of course, you want them using high quality tools.
In talking with Pete, I came across a major finding to the question of how to become more attractive objectively.
Here we go.
And it's that the answer is paradoxical.
These hairs love to shoot backwards, but the bottom pieces, luckily, they shoot forward onto.
Yes, we all want to be more attractive, and we can all recognize when a change is more attractive. But if there was a single answer for everyone, wouldn't we all look the same? Think about it. What if every guy had a comb-over side part? It kind of takes away the art behind what makes us human.
And that's the thing with plastic surgery. There's always this concern that people are starting to gravitate towards like a common denominator rather than really highlighting their uniqueness, right? And I'm always stressing that we should be ourselves, but if somebody wants, they can try to be a somewhat more enhanced or rejuvenated version of themselves, but don't try to be someone else.
It's been 2 years since I've had this modern mullet look, and genuinely, it's the first time I've felt an answer to the haircut dilemma. It's a haircut that maximizes my attractive traits and hides away some of my weaker ones. It's one that represents my playful, fun side, and best of all, I don't have to use any product. It's the natural growth of my hair. At one point, I did try and force Pete to answer this paradoxical question, and in it, we did come up with a single word answer that got my wheels spinning.
Harmonious. That's the word.
A good hairstyle at minimum should be harmonious, meaning well-balanced, proportional, and pleasing as a whole.
Yeah, I think harmonious is a great term, and it's something that really works with facial rebalancing as well when it comes to plastic surgery. And looking at the face, not just as just the nose or just the eyes, but looking at the big picture and trying to find ways of properly harmonizing the facial proportions and facial structures. And the same goes for the rest of the body too, because let's say you have a face that looks like you're 30 years old, but let's say then your hands look much older, and your actual physical posture isn't youthful. I mean, that's going to throw off somebody's impression of how old you are. So everything does have to kind of work together.
Nice.
Come here, full hug. Thank you, man.
Bro hug, love it.
Well, he doesn't need plastic surgery anymore, so.
Yeah.
Not so fast. No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't think he needs any plastic surgery.
Throughout this whole experience, there was one line that Pete said which really stood out to me.
There's a lot of social aspects into this, right? Because the way that somebody looks at you determines like what they think of you. It shouldn't matter, but it does.
And this phenomenon can be divided into two buckets: pretty privilege and pretty penalty. This comes up in job opportunities, salary amounts, and even treatment in criminal court. Attractive people are getting something that most others aren't because of the way that they look. There was a study where 60 students were given an envelope of 3 faces. One that was deemed attractive, one that was deemed average, and one not so attractive. The students were then asked to assess these people based on their personality traits and then predict some of their life experiences. And in summary, the results showed that the students believed that the attractive individuals got the higher status jobs, got married, and were overall more happy. Additionally, studies show that pretty privilege is really apparent in the workplace. Attractive people were more likely to be promoted and have better performance evaluation.
I remember hearing that people who are more attractive are more likely to have the door held for them rather than someone who isn't as attractive, which is kind of messed up.
But the second bucket of all of this is pretty penalty. Surprisingly, being attractive can actually be a disadvantage. For example, research shows that attractive people may be seen as more vain and less modest. There are downsides to these mental shortcuts that we take as humans, specifically the halo effect. To say that an attractive person is also a smarter individual, a better parent, or can be more honest is a bias that could do more harm than good. So beware of it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We now know that how attractive you are matters in the world we live in. I'm not gonna lie, finding a good hairstyle might have bumped me up a point or two, but why stop there? And also, have you ever thought to yourself, how far would you go to become more attractive?
I'm Doug Steinbrock, and I'm a board-certified aesthetic plastic surgeon.
Here we measure your skin tone so I can compare your redness and yellowness.
We'll clean up the neck with liposuction and what we call neck tight.
I wonder if he's going to actually go through with those procedures.
In order to test everything about attractiveness non-physically, we thought the best way would be to make a makeshift dating show.
I make an incision on the inside, go in through the mouth.
And again, I think it's because growing up, I was like told not to. And so like breaking a foundation that's embedded in my head. So that's that reaction.
So, all right, we're gonna move to the body. So first, tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like.
Wow, this is like somewhat epic. There's a lot going on in this series, and I'm curious to see what the subsequent episodes look like, especially the plastic surgery one. I wonder if he actually goes through with those procedures or if it's just information and just done for the episode. So we'll see about that. But I think this is an important conversation to have, and it's something that we talk about often on this channel, and it's something that, you know, has a lot of deeper, you know, kind of implications into how we think, how we act as human beings. Look, I think sometimes we go too far with plastic surgery, and other times it's something that's out there that I think more people can benefit from, especially when it's done properly and safely. We'll talk about that more, I'm sure, in that plastic surgery episode. But for now, all I have to say is thanks to Tejas for having the courage and curiosity to make a series about attractiveness.